All right.
It looks like we're live.
It looks like we are officially live.
It is great to be here.
Hello, Ben. Here we are on Mint, our first episode. Can you believe this?
I am half reindeer.
Are you the bull reindeer?
Yeah, exactly. Like a bull reindeer, you got it. And obviously the punk navigator.
The punk navigator. You're the educator. Like, how many advocations do you have? I think we could give you a couple more.
Well, I think it's like you, isn't it? I mean, like when I look to you say I'm doing this on this committee and I'm working here and I'm doing this commission, and I think I need to catch up with you. So between us, I think we've got a list of a long list what we're actually involved in, which is pretty fantastic, isn't it? To be having so many fingers in so many pies across Stella, it's a great thing.
I'm just making sure this is all getting sent out to the right places.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully,
I can go and check you out as well. Make sure that.
Yeah, let's make sure everything's happening right here for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But if you're unfamiliar with either of us, Ben, the educator, does the Bullring videos. He also runs the Ben and Jen Lou and Swap community show on YouTube. I am not a YouTube personality. I am an artist on Lightment. I used to do a podcast some years ago called The Comic Consciousness. We did 34 episodes of that on iTunes. It's also available a couple other places. It was just me and a few friends. You know, we talk about comic books. I talk about my conventions, like stuff after I come back from them and things like that. And very, very heavy on the comic book world. So if it was something that was unfamiliar to people, they were probably never going to latch onto it. But I think we're going all right here now. Yeah.
Yep, showing good on your Twitter profile. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Rink, if you can you do what you did on our show, and can you roll back the clock a little bit, and you can you give everyone a little kind of insight into, like, you know, your mom encouraging you and your art and everything, because that was really interesting. It fascinated me.
Well, you know, that was, oh gosh, so that's like, you know, that's the early 90s, and this is before we even had, you know, internet and all these things that we had that I think makes it easier for parents now to find things for their kids. So excuse me. When I was about 7, you know, around that range, I started telling my mom things like, oh, this is how an artist holds a pen and stuff of that nature. And she found it to be very odd for just a kid to say something like that out of nowhere. So she wanted to see if I got more interested in art by finding someone that taught art to kids. And there was a woman in our local town that was teaching art classes for kids like 7 to 12 year range, you know. And she taught all the basics and all the traditional stuff, landscapes and portraits. And she'd take us literally out into the field in like, you know, parks and stuff, and go on trails and paint from nature, you know, use the world as your reference. And I took to that immediately. It felt right to me. I when I look back now, it must have been unusual to see a kid doing that, because I did it on my own too, outside of class. I would take all my paper, my paints and my pencils, and get an easel and go outside and all this sorts of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was simple, and it started to get a little bit more stressful for me as a kid when we were doing the like sort of competitions that like libraries and stuff would have for young artists. And I started winning, and that didn't really make much sense to me. I didn't really know what that meant at the time, just being a little kid who was just having some fun. And like I knew there was like a prize involved, and but then people started coming up to me and saying like, oh, well, we'll be keeping an eye on you as you get older, and all this sorts of stuff. You know how, like, you know, other parents are or adults are about that sort of thing. it's very encouraging, but at the same time, to be like 7 and 8 years old, it's really stressful to out of nowhere feel like somebody is expecting something of you. And that's when it started to stop. And I didn't do any real like drawing or painting for years because of
which is really sad, because I think that, on another note, that could have flourished, couldn't it? With that kind of thing, rather than like, the way that obviously you interpreted that at 7, 8 years old, when you were kind of confused about, the impact of that, and you decided to withdraw. Whereas, some people would have been like, whoa, it's like rock star time. You know what I mean? I'm rolling.
I know, but would a 7 or 8 year old really think that? Do you think?
I probably think not. No, but I just think maybe that they would potentially be actively encouraged, would they? And like think I've now got them.
I think that's where the parents come in, right? That's when the parents start making more decisions. Like my mom wanted me to just enjoy it, and she wanted me to be an artist and have fun. Like I was homeschooled as well from first grade right through high school. And that was for various reasons. The area we lived in wasn't very safe at the time for kids, and my mom was worried about my older brother at the time too. So she took us both out, and she got her teaching degree, and I learned through a private school that also did homeschooling. So they'd send out all the material that you needed. I never missed a single test or any kind of thing that qualified me to have an education in the proper way. So she didn't try to push me farther. Like, how like say like a parent sees their kid excel at a sport. Well, then we got to get him on a team. We got to get him in like, oh, he's in the playoffs. Oh, well, we've got to get them, to the thing, and we've got to do this and do it all the time and get him out there. And he's interested in it. He wants to do it. He's really good. My parents didn't do that to me. When I started to feel overwhelmed, they backed off. They didn't over push it. And, I think that's a tricky thing for a parent to balance. How much do you push your kid? How much do you back away from that? Let them do their own thing. And I was just too young. I think that's just all it was, is that, they wanted me to still just have fun and life too. Like, we ended up moving out of that town maybe a couple of years after. My dad worked for IBM, and then he lost his job at IBM and started working at various different computer programming companies and things like that. So, that was the mid 90s, and then the internet bubble, and, oh my gosh, it brings us all right to here, really. Like when I think about the things I grew up on, like, I don't know how old you are. So I'm 35.
I'm 45.
You're 45. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would have been a teenager, a young kid. You're my brother's age. My brother's 44. Okay. So you're the same age as my brother. So you get it. Like that's a wild time, as things were changing so quickly.
I think it's really interesting, because I know that obviously this is an art show, but I think it's quite good to obviously give everyone like a real good basis of us as people as well, and like kind of why we've got to where we are, and kind of our philosophies on certain things. Yeah. So these kind of little tangents are pretty good. But I've got two sons who from a previous relationship, and they don't live with me. They live with their mum. Yeah. And one of my sons is a really, really good swimmer and rugby player. Rugby is really big here in England and the UK, and he is like one of like what you would see as like kind of the Manchester United kind of standard rugby clubs, which is Worcester Warriors. He's there at like their academy now, and it's almost a point where he's going to be selected over the next few months. We hope that he's going to be selected to be like professional sports person. But what I would say from the the mums and that pushing kids is that I think that, he's been married to sport for his whole childhood, and he has missed on some of the childhood aspects of it because he's been getting up in the morning, 5 o'clock, he's been swimming in the pool. He swims for the county, which over in the States is probably like, you guys swimming for the state. So he's like a significant standard swimmer. He's at this rugby college, but he has had to put some childhood aside to get to that level at 17, where he's now at a like professional sports standard. And I just think that, when you're talking about your mum now, I think it's a fine balance of letting your child be a child and having fun, and also encouraging the kids to, to pursue what they're really, really naturally talented at.
Well, I think it's also one of those things, like my mom's mom didn't really push her so much to find like a focus in her life. Like my mom always struggled with finding her place, and my dad was just really hyper focused on, like, he had to work, he was a 9-to-5-er. He went to work every day, he came home, and so it's just one of those things where, like, you do want a certain thing to happen for your child. And I think maybe, she just figured that, if I got through school, that I'd work my way back around to that. And I ended up going to college for film, and I took theater, I did acting, I did set stuff, I ended up going to film school for video editing and camera work. And that's what I did professionally for the first 3 years I was out of college. And that was in the Boston area, and it was tough. It was really tough, really stressful. It could have paid well, but they drop you like a hot rocket, because it's just all freelance. So the moment they don't need you, that you can just go away. It's really hard in that kind of aspect. And I think that's what maybe makes it different for like kids when their parents are putting them through sports, if they're really good with sports, is that there's way more organization, right? And when it comes down to that, is that like, there's more that is there for the parent to interact with the kid, that keeps that sort of aspect of it works like a cog in a wheel. Like, you can't really get that with art for kids. If they want to get into art, it's very independent, and there was a lot of stigma. There just was a lot of stigma growing up. They didn't want kids to be artists. They were getting rid of art classes in schools every year, in public schools in my country, in America. Like, more money was going into sports and less money was going into art. So it's an objective thing.
Yeah, I think that when we just have to look at the, without going too deep into that rabbit hole, but we only need to look at the curriculum here in the UK as well. And it's very much along the lines of, academia is what is wanted. It's not like, oi, we've got some comments coming in now. Tremendous.
All right. We've been basically just talking to ourselves. That's fine. It's early. I didn't know if this was going to be a good time for a show, but it should work out okay. It's the first episode.
Yeah. And also I think that, the channel's going to have time to, get out there and to get popular and stuff. So it's great to be with you. It's, you've got Drift Exchange.
Drift Exchange. All right.
Yeah, good.
That's the thing. Like, we're doing it on mine, and people had asked me, like, well, you're going to do it on Ben's because he's got all the traction and everything. And I didn't want to bog it down on your page because you already had so much going on. I didn't want people to be confused by too many things going on your page. So that's really all that was. And it's a simple thing. We're having fun.
Those people that have obviously those people that are just joining us now, we've just been really kind of like setting, you can obviously watch this on catch up, but we've just been really setting the scene of, how Andrew found his way into kind of art. We've been talking about parents and supporting kids and whether you push them or whether you leave off, and how then the story has got to the point where, Andrew was like 7 or 8 years old. He's winning competitions in local libraries, and he's doing exceptionally well. He's naturally talented. He's naturally gifted. He's got this, way about him that is just knocking out high standard artwork. But then he's got to a point where it's actually felt quite intimidated and gone introvert within himself because of winning the prizes, rather than winning the prizes and thinking this is the step to kick on. He's won the prizes and actually felt that that's quite, overpowering, overwhelming, took the step back. So we're at that point in the story. So what then, when you did the homeschooling with your great education, you said from the private school, when then did you get to a point where you went, oh, hang on, you've done the film when you've left college, when did you kind of go, I know that now my life
is art. My life is back to drawing. I've come full circle.
Yeah.
When I finally had enough of the stress of working for someone else, like someone else who has another objective, someone else who has a plan, someone else who just needs someone to shoot a camera or edit a piece of film and then move on. And then they want to, they want you to give them their vision in your eyes. And that's really difficult to do, if you're someone who has their own vision and they try to tell you that, oh yeah, we want you to do your thing, but then they pull it apart and they want it changed, and that's great, but it's great when you feel like you're part of that team. A lot of those things, those avenues, they don't let you feel part of the process, other than, hey, I wrote you this check to do the job, and that's when I started to just feel like I didn't have an identity. I felt like I was literally just sort of like, anything that's disposable. I had literally gotten calls some days where like, we need you to shoot this. And then, oh, never mind. We don't need you. Forget it. It's fine. And that's hard to do when you're trying to, save money for life and pay bills. Out of nowhere, your bill money is there and then it's gone. It hurts. So I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to do film anymore. I didn't want to do video editing. I didn't want to be associated with any of it. And it put me in a really weird place, because I felt for once like I had absolutely no direction. I completely stopped myself. So I started drawing again. I remembered that like I loved comic books. I was reading my old books. I had started reading like new stuff again, and something just said to me, it's like, why don't you do what you love? Like really, really, really try to do what you love. Sure, it's going to be no different. Like I knew like the danger of going back into something for the same reasons that I was struggling before, is that, I could potentially, be latched onto something that was just going to be a paycheck, and I was never going to really feel the ultimate like creation and an experience of connecting with people that are other artists that are doing things. But I did it anyway, because it's what I really, really wanted to do. I knew that comic books and drawing and painting made my life feel right, from like the very moment that I started doing it. That's what I started to remember, is that was more important, than any sort of thing that my mind was going to create that was stressful. Is that doing what you love is really the most important, regardless of how people may judge you or put you on pedestals or what have you. That's just life. It's going to happen all the time. All my friends from the time I was a teenager right through college, when I said that I wanted to go into film and I wanted to do this, all of them were like, you can't do that. Get a real job.
Yeah.
Well, I always said, well, what's a real job?
Yeah.
I was watching the world in the mid 2000s completely fall apart in the world, in the job world. Like I saw, lawyers going to law school and coming out and not having a law job. So it's just one of those things, and that can go into a whole nother thing. But I think all that kind of stuff, I can tell you that this is probably not an uncommon story, especially for anyone that's gotten into cryptos or NFTs. And I think that's why we gravitate towards like the DGen sort of tagline, you know, is that a lot of us have been kicked out of things and have been told that we shouldn't do what we want to do, or
I think in a large part, I think it's a really interesting, I want to add a layer. I think it's a really interesting line of conversation, because I think crypto is almost like an eclectic mix of waifs and strays. Like you said, from like people that have had, you know, like pretty crazy experiences. You know, one of the reasons I'm here is I absolutely hate legacy finance. You know, I hate the fact that, you know, this financial model, the global financial model that we've got, is strangling 2/3 of the people on this planet, you know, and it is favoring the elite and the rich. And I was like actively looking and saying, how do we combat this? We've got some super intelligent people, developers, innovators, designers, and you know, I just look to the way mortgages work and loans work and the actual, you know, the inner workings of that, not just the superficial, what you think, the inner workings of the way that money comes into or currency comes into circulation. And I got angry. And I was like, I come into crypto, you know, these years ago because I didn't want to be taking part in this legacy financial world, even though I'm obviously, as soon as I switch off my computer and I go outside, I have to be part of that, because that's the world we live in. But we're in this revolution now where I'm starting to see, say, someone like yourself, you know, Inc, can you do me this great comic show? I'm coming up with an idea. I think it's a new business idea, and you know, it's going to be about something I'm passionate about. Can you make me this? Here's some tokens for your time. So now we're getting into a position where we're tokenizing so much of society, and we are getting both services and products for this token that, I mean, let's just use Drift because it's the brand new, you know, project that's just launched.
You mean Drift? Just kidding.
You know,
like seriously, like it's amazing.
This token now that didn't exist just a week ago. Now we can start saying, yes, I'm going to create some artwork for this token. That's what I'm trying to get at, just as an example. And now we can create these economies that are running in parallel to this legacy finance. And that's what drives, I mean, I get up every day and I think, well, this is my dream, like yours is art, me and educating people into how we can do this broken thing better.
No, I agree. That's how I've always thought about, like, it's like, I think this is why these two things are working well together, NFTs and crypto, because people got into crypto because they wanted to change the financial system. They wanted to free people. They wanted to get rid of all of these financial class systems that were not going away, no matter what anybody did or said. You know, we can't break out of it. And now it's starting to happen. And the art world is really no different. Artists have either been told that they should just be artists just for the sake of being artists and not worry about the money. Well, how are you supposed to live? Well, I don't know. You'll figure it out. Or they'll have a backer, or they'll get into advertising, or they'll, you know, animation became huge. You know, 2D and 3D animation studios became huge for artists, but then, you know, those artists weren't taken seriously because all the art world did was tell people that 3D animation wasn't real art. Like there was always some sort of like backlash, regardless of what you did. And I think as you see NFTs take off, everything makes sense. Every artist now has an opportunity to be free, not just financially, but also like creatively. Like you can get into one of these projects, and the people that are involved in these NFT projects that want to pay you to make art, they aren't trying to stress anyone out. They haven't tried to stress me out. You know, they want, I always hear, you know, if you can get it done for this, great, take your time. as much creative influence from you. Just try to integrate, something. And there's always a brief. That's fine. I think creative things need an overview so you get an idea of things, especially from an advertisement standpoint, because really that's what we're talking about here, is that like a lot of this is very advertisement focused. That's not bad. Art does invoke something. It calls to people. So it can be used in a lot of different ways. And my gosh, when I think about like even like, the stuff the stuff with Stellar Punks and all the different projects in Stellar that are happening, I've been able to also then tell artists that, I'd love to commission this from you. How much can I pay you? Is this enough? Like, can I pay you more? I mean, I never felt like I would ever be able to say that to somebody, and that's like what I've always wanted to be able to do, was that not only get my art out there and be the artist that I wanted to be, but help other people that were doing it the same way that I was, because I just saw a bunch of people at Comic-Cons and art conventions just being broken. They were becoming jaded, they were becoming pessimistic, or just depressed altogether. And that's nothing good's going to come out of that. Nothing.
I think the way that, you're talking about a revolution as I see it, in the art world, where, now I'm the same. I go and see so many incredible artists on Stellar, and, yourself, whether it's you or whether it's any one of the others, I've said, any chance of either getting hold of the piece because I've been really busy and I can't get hold of something, can you direct me to something, or can I commission a piece? And I think that now, let's just look at it realistically. Some of these artists, especially some of these where you've got these, and I'm sure you'll explain this, but like multi-layers. So you've got like a Photoshop with multi-layers, and you can switch the different layers of an NFT so that you get different NFTs. But essentially, it's very easy to produce, say, 3 or 4 pieces or however many pieces with just this kind of switch, rather than you having to hand draw each of those 4 pieces. And then being able to say a command, I don't know, maybe 10 for the ones that are starting off, the $10 for 4 pieces, $40 a day for something that they love doing, when they're starting off. I think that's absolutely reasonable. And I've seen new artists, getting that sort of figure, to the sort of, crypto payments that, you can now, expect on every single punk drop that you're doing. And it's something that you're really super passionate about. So, the balance is there, where there isn't this, in the film industry where you're being dropped and we don't need you anymore. You are being, almost hunted down by individuals such as myself, projects with the advertisement aspect, and they want something blending. But then also, where people are saying, can you kind of advise, from an advisory capacity? Can you be involved in the team, and can you help us direct this project? So not just the actual, your whatever it's called, stylus on your iPad or whatever, but also you're coming in from a strategy standpoint and helping that project navigate in the crypto space. So the opportunity, this revolution that's happening, the opportunity is a mind-blowing, isn't it?
Well, I think it's one of those things where, like, you mentioned prices and things, and like I can remember like plenty of artists at shows and things, and everybody's got a different strategy. A lot of people like to create their art and put it on little knickknacks like keychains, or they make little stickers, and they make cards, and they make all kinds of stuff. It's not necessarily even that they're trying to sell some big piece. Some people like to get little sales. A lot of little sales equate to an easier income for themselves when they're going to every show. You have the artist that maybe is trying to sell these massive pieces of artwork, and it's like hundreds and thousands of dollars, and maybe they're selling mostly prints at like $40 a piece, $20 a piece, and then someone comes around and says, "Oh, I've been looking at that. I'd love to buy that." And that's where I think like why it makes sense in NFTs. Like an artist has the right to charge how they like, find the prices that fit their stuff. Something for everybody. If a collection takes off, they have every right to recreate the value of themselves. If they feel like if popularity is going up and they have to sort of, draw more, not necessarily that anyone's demanding it, but just their creativity in their head is demanding that they draw more. When an artist gets fueled with their art, when someone says that they like it and then someone says that they buy it, you're putting so much energy into that artist. It is really mind-blowing what little can be done. That is a lot for an artist, and it's not always like, that's why it can be whatever it wants to be, however much an artist wants to be paid, great. And there's always going to be something new, I think, happening here, because we only have probably less than 1% of artists even interested in NFTs at the moment.
Yeah, I would say, and I think this is where certain projects. We'll come on to talking about all of the projects. You've got like JPEG, you've got like JPEG DAO, you've got Drift, we've got Nuna, we've got different projects that are on Stellar with an art focus that are. I think each one of them has this this part built into their project that is about how they can help increase the movement of artists that aren't in the 99+% that you've just mentioned, helping those move in to the space, rewarding those, commissioning works. And I think awareness, for me, from a marketing standpoint, we have to have an awareness. We have to talk in simple language that they understand. And we have to have the awareness that there is another world. A lot of these artists are not in the NFT space because they don't even know it exists. It's not until we start seeing this. I mean, even my mum and dad, and they're in their 70s, they came over and they're like, have you heard about this like stupid pixelated thing that's like allegedly sold for like $30 million or something? I says, look, that's been going on. But like, this is old news, mum, old news. But like,
that was May.
This is growing out at such an exponential rate now. And I think the use cases of NFTs is just going to increase as well. So people are going to be utilizing these not just for an art perspective in the collection, but also saying, okay, well, how can we have this single token that is on a blockchain that we can't disagree with who actually owns it, and it's represented in an artistic format? How can we use that for a variety of different things? Concert tickets. Stubs when you've gone to the Super Bowl or something like that, you get a specific one. It might even be where you get the Super Bowl rings. When they get a ring, they also get an NFT for that win. That's certain value.
I'm fully believing by like the summer we're going to be going to sports events, and there's going to be like Topps trading card kind of dispensaries where you can get packs, and then you get like some sort of QR NFT code thing. Like, we're that close to people just going to their favorite events, picking up something from a memorabilia like kiosk and getting an NFT. It's going to happen. Like, if we have things that we can go and get cryptos from, then like the first time I got Bitcoin, I turned all my loose change into Bitcoin. That was the first interaction with crypto I ever had. And that's how it's going to happen on an everyday level, is that people are going to see it in the stores and in the places they go to and the things that they do. That's going to happen a lot more as we see integration moving forward with like the LA Lakers. They're going to be playing at the crypto.com arena now. You've got, I watched the Macy's Day Parade here, the Thanksgiving Day Parade here in America last month, and they gave away NFTs. Towards the end, they had an ad. Go to Macy's.com/whatever NFTs. They were all historically designed floats from previous parades in history at Macy's. So like a lot of the floats and like balloons were stuff no one had seen for 50, 60 years. And now they're little animated NFTs. The backgrounds fit the time period. I think they built it on Matic. They sold out really quick. They gave a bunch away. I saw the comments on Twitter. People are like, "Oh, I'm one of these NFT people now. What do I do with this? Oh, I've got 5 of them. I guess I'm gonna continue this. And like, I wanted to say, you know, those people need to hold on to those, because like, because I don't even want to know what they're going to be worth next year, you know, when they do it again. You know, that's why like we're going to scale back to JPEG DAO with the Christmas advent calendar thing, right? So like every day people have been getting NFTs from JPEG for the advent, and that's been monumental to watch and be like a part of. Is that if they do this next year, I mean, I hope they do it again next year, but I can only imagine what those will be worth in one whole year, because you're not going to get that art again. Artists aren't going to make that stuff again. You're only going to, there may have been one piece given out 250 times or whatever it is. I think they doubled their give out to 500 in the last like week. Somehow Brian and everybody pulled that off. It's just amazing. Like really hats off to them for like doing this. Like, it's just crazy. Cheesley's been working like I don't know, like, is he completely melted? I don't even know if he's a person anymore or a cheese. He might just be like a mound of like puddle at this point. Like, it blows my mind to think about where we already are. Like 6 months ago, people weren't doing this on Stellar. We weren't talking about these kind of things on Stellar.
Well, it's looking at the topic as from a higher level. You know, we are now, you know, just in the last, what are we talking now? 7 weeks, right? We've had this new protocol upgrade on Stellar, and it's brought in the automated market makers on November the 3rd. So now we're starting to bring in liquidity to Stellar. Stellar's been pretty dormant in the DeFi world because it didn't have obviously any of the stuff going on that many of the other networks. You mentioned Matic or Polygon as it is now.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of this stuff's going on other chains. But now we've got this where we're bringing in liquidity and we're bringing in investors and we're bringing in new projects and we're bringing all sorts of things. This liquidity, I think, is going to really grow significantly. And this total value lock, so the amount of the amount, essentially, to break it into layman's terms, the amount of money that's going to come into Stellar is going to be astronomical in 2022.
Yeah.
As more money comes in, that means more people are coming in. As more people are coming in, they're going to be looking, as you rightly say, at NFTs as an integral part of this whole Stellar ecosystem. And these collections now, these artists, the early artists on Stellar, this is going to be like the legacy stuff we're seeing right now. The last 4 months, this is my opinion, by the way. The last 4 months, your Stellar Punks, you know, all of the different Doggo Blocks collection. I'm not going to go through all of the artists, but, you know, there's so many of these legacy collections that we're going to see. And like you said, 1 year from now, if we look at, say, there's just $45-ish million of total value locked on Stellar, I think that could easily be 20 times in 22, at least 20 to 50 times. Well, then you think the amount of projects, the amount of people, you know, they're going to be looking at these. If people are holding these NFTs, I can only see one thing happening to their value. I really can.
No, I totally agree. Sorry, I was just sending out another tweet. We were having some problems, so I guess you know, between the link that I had on YouTube and the link that SteamYard sent out, created some problems. So I'm just letting people know on Twitter so they can find us here. That was a bit of a.
Can people still drop some comment? I mean, I'm unable for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm unable.
You're unable to drop comments.
Yeah. So I don't know why that is. But if
I don't know why that is either.
And allow us to see if they can still write comments at the minute. I'd see.
I'm pretty sure they should be able to. Someone commented a moment ago how they're loving their JPEG advent calendar. I know, like Simple Potato had asked if there's too many tokens, and I for my own like opinion, I think it's about what they do and how good the projects are, and you know, like. Are there too many tokens? Well, in the grand scope of crypto, I think there will always be an influx of new and old tokens coming around. People are always going to be trying something different. You know, lots of different blockchain networks. You know, when you have on something on Binance, you have on Ethereum, you know, what we have on Stellar. Stellar only just got started in this whole thing, like you had pointed out. And I've loved Stellar from the moment I heard about it, because it was so easy to just have this happen. It just took time and initiative from developers and people who wanted to bring this stuff over, and the protocols getting developed. It was a matter of time, and nobody cared about NFTs a year ago. And I don't mean nobody as like a negative standpoint. I just mean that it was a lot smaller. The focus was a lot smaller, you know, and I can remember drawing crypto stuff on Twitter, like a year ago, 2 years ago, sharing stuff, watching trades, doing trades myself, watching people drawing and stuff. And the only thing we had was crypto artists. Like, that's like, no one was even really saying like, oh, I'm making NFTs about crypto art, or like, hey, have you heard about NFTs? It was just literally hashtag crypto artists. And like, OpenSea was still there. People were still making their art into NFTs. I stumbled upon it. Like, it's one of those things. And then like, and now everybody's just like, well, yeah, NFTs, because it finally hit that point where it went over the hill, where no one was seeing that sun rising up. And then they saw that big N, and they're like, what's that? What's a non-fungible tokenized asset? And then like, it went nuts, you know. That's why everyone's buying up those old ones from 2016, 2017, 2018, because they've been here long enough. That's old. That's old enough for a collection to be worth what it is. That's the way I see it, anyway.
I think it's almost like, because everything moves so quickly in crypto. I mean, like, you know, you have to be plugging into the evolution of crypto on a daily basis, I say, to stay connected with what's going on. It's not like you can go away for a month and come back, because then everything's shifted again. You're like, wow, what's just happened? You know, whereas it may be out there in the real world, you know, away from the crypto world, you know, a lot of these things are taking a year or two to be, you know, changed. Here, you know, it has to be voted in, and there has to be all the different sorts of levels of change. Here, things are pivoting almost on a weekly, monthly basis. And I think that is great for projects that have got an open mind to pivot. You know, the projects that are starting to say, okay, let's take, you know, yourself, me, and several other people that are commentators in the space in different places. Let's take your opinion, and like, let's try and bring the best bits of this, the best bits of that. And, you know, this stuff then that was the 4 years ago is almost like an antique, isn't it? It's almost like saying this thing's 100 years old because it's in crypto and it's 4 years. That is a long time, isn't it?
It is. Like, I can think about like how I found out about NFTs, and it wasn't necessarily even about the word itself. I learned about an artist named Pascal Boyart, is what he goes by on the internet. He's a French graffiti artist and mural designer. So like, a lot of the art he does is very old master looking. He does it all in traditional form, and he does it on rundown financial buildings, banking buildings, places that are no longer being used in Europe. And he made these tags of these very elaborate murals about society, and they were Bitcoin focused. And then he threw up a spray painted QR code for a Bitcoin wallet, and people started paying him in Bitcoin when they see his art on the streets. And then he started digitizing his art and sort of taking these murals, taking little photos of each part, like a puzzle piece, and then people could collect the pieces by buying them off of like OpenSea or whatever. And that's when I started to learn about NFTs. I was like, wow, you could just tag up your art somewhere and put a QR code for crypto, and like, people could just pay you if they like it. Like, oh my God, we could do this in art galleries. We could do this with games. We could do this with really, like, you could put a QR code on anything. We've had them now for a while, and no one's been using them. And then I just, like, my mind like exploded with like creativity. I didn't know what to do when I thought about it, because at the time I was depressed. I had lost my dad right around the time I discovered crypto, and so it was a tough time for me to figure out what I wanted to do. And now we're here, and I see all these things happening, and everybody's doing all this crazy stuff. That you've got wearable NFTs. I saw people using QR masks, putting their favorite profile picture NFT in there, and so when they put it on camera, they're wearing their profile picture on their face in QR mode, and it's just like I don't know. I mean, where you can do whatever you want, right? That's where we're going here, I think.
Yeah, with my mind just I think it just runs away every day, because as you just said then, you're starting to think, oh my God, if you can do that, then you can do this, and before you know it, you're in another rabbit hole, aren't you, of like potentiality of what we can do. I want to kind of change, I want to bend the conversation a little bit now to your, who is, and I know that you're going to say there's a lot of people, I get that, and it's the same with me. I want you to pick one artist who is tearing it up in Europe this week, who's caught your attention this week on Stellar, someone that you think this person's doing some really cool stuff, and they have certainly piqued my interest to go and look at more stuff this week. Who would you say?
Well, let's hold on. I happen to have Lightman up. I'm gonna do a little screen share here as soon as I find my mouse. Where are you? There you are. Let's see here. If I can, is that the right one? And then I think that one does that. There we go. Can everybody see that? Can you see that there, Ben? Cool.
Yes, I can.
So now we're on. Yeah, here we are. Recent mints on Lightman. Oh gosh, it just seems like some people I'm like just catching like this person here is new, and they've got Cthulhu collection going. I think that's hilarious. That's pretty cool. Jaws NFTs. I don't know when they got onto the network. This seems fairly new artist.
Who's that? What's the I need to, because my eyesight's terrible. But what's the artist name here? Because
the artist here is, let's see if I can let's see here. Oops. No, I don't want to go to Facebook. The artist is Jaws NFTs. So JAHZ NFTs.
Thank you.
Wow, a Cthulhu set. That's hilarious. Those crack me up. I like that. That's out of nowhere. I think I noticed one of them last night. Now he's got like a whole bunch up. Gnaw Bears has got more of these cards up. My God, I'd like to talk to him about these cards because I don't really know a lot about them in the set. Like I've been collecting the regular Gnaw Bears, and I see these cards coming up. So cool. Who is
doing this? Who's doing the top right there?
This here?
Yeah. No, the top right. The women.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Oh, I know who this is. This is So this is Wolf Shadow. Pretty sure. I don't know if it's a man or a woman that's doing. Oh no, it's a woman. It is. I think it's her name's Fiona. I think she's on Twitter here. No, not Fiona. I'm terrible at that. Florina Bonata. I hope I said that right. They are kind of incredible. She or they, I'm just going to go with they, are really doing some cool stuff. They have an auction here that's got 45 minutes left. It's called Angry Ape Army. Best bid of 200 XLM.
That's pretty crazy.
This is pretty cool. I love her stuff. If I keep saying her, and I'm probably right about that, but if I'm not, I'm sorry. Their art is amazing. I bought a few of their pieces. Their style is really they do everything, traditional, like oil work, all of this very cool digital painting stuff. There's so
Yeah.
many that they've done. This is some newer stuff. When you go to like their diamond collection, I think this is all, they went and did a lot of the traditional art that are also available.
Oh wow! So you can have like the Mona Lisa. I can have the Mona Lisa in one of my frames, and I finally made it.
Yep, we've got 12 days on auction on that. It's very high. But if you're someone out there that's looking to collect like some serious art, this is one of the artists. Wolf Shadow, author BFV88 is the shortening on Lightment. You'll see their stuff.
BFB88.
BFV, so like Brian Ford, Volvo.
88.
Okay. But you'll notice their stuff right away. Like this art is just out of control. Like really good. Like I notice their style right away.
That's good.
So that's a big one for me. I've been trying to keep track. You've got we got some new Nuna art up. Oh, that's not there. It's I think one of the only things like I have a hard time with is people's names that they choose for their stores.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for me to say exactly what that is. That's all. I don't know how to read that out.
Yeah.
That's too jargon for me. And I notice that's maybe it's just that people just don't know what it is. They just want to get their stuff up and they go with whatever. Like maybe it's familiar to them on Twitter or something like that. So that's one thing that makes it hard for me to sort of pinpoint who's who. Other people not so much. Some people, plenty of people that are very focused on their name, their store name. I love Null Bears. My God, that dude is just he's a powerhouse. Serious rock star, like sort of like work mentality. It's just unbelievable.
I think I think he's almost well, he's a bit like Sir Cheesley. Both of them are like, almost, like a combination of human and robotic, aren't they? The amount of work that they do and the amount of hours that they get it done in.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the winter tag on Lightment. If you're looking for anything winter or holiday related, it's all compiled right here. As long as people add their tag winter, you'll get it in here. Lady Luck is also another one of my favorites. She does a lot of astrological, like horoscope style stuff. And sorry for anyone that may be affected by blinking imagery. Another big one for me, and this is a friend of mine. Let's see if we can get some of his art up here. He's one of the artists that's actually on a lot of different marketplaces. Mac Phil. So you can get his art on OpenSea. You can get it on Binance Chain. He's all over the place. Hold on, I think I did that wrong.
And what's his name? Mac Phil.
Yeah, he goes by. He's Phil McCann. So he's on Twitter. Let's get him up here. There he is. Philip McCann. There's one of his recent pieces that he's doing for Pancake Swap stuff. It's fun. He does a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find his Lightman stuff. But he does a lot of planets. It's all hand-drawn. He does it all with markers and then uploads it, and not a lot of people are doing that. I think more people should be doing that. Like like of course, like digital art. I think that's one of the things. I'm gonna actually just close this for a second. Digital art, you know, it can be made digitally, but most art is still made traditionally and then uploaded. So, you know, it's not hard to take your art and bring it back to the new world, or to where you want it to be physically, you know. And that's great for NFTs, you know, being an artist that is connected to both worlds. You know, I know that a lot of artists, it's a lot of them are really new to doing stuff. I think the people that are doing NFTs, they're not only just new to NFTs, they're kind of new to sharing their art. They're artists that were more the hobbyist, or someone who was just doing it for fun, and you know, things sort of just said, hey, let's try NFTs. People told me about NFTs. I heard I can make a few extra bucks maybe on my art. Like I can remember Seven RCU on Lightman. He said to me, this was a couple months ago. He was like, you know, when I got on Lightman and started putting my art on there and making my comics and things, he's like, I didn't expect anyone to buy my art for a year or more, because I just figured I was that early. I was okay with playing the long game if no one bought a single piece of my art. And I was shocked to hear that he was that was his plan. That was like, he was completely focused on just doing it for fun. And if it sold, great. If it didn't take off for another year, fine. And when you look at Seven, what he's got going on now with Moon Twinkies, and what he's doing for JPEG and his own collection, and like I can remember telling him, I was like, man, your stuff is, you know, really cool, and I'm not shocked, you know, that you're getting sales. And like I was more shocked that he thought he wasn't going to get any at all. And I guess maybe that's where we were, you know, in the spring, early summer, artists in NFTs, you know, because it was just a lot of CryptoPunk, Pixel Punk, Bored Ape talk, just a lot of that. And then, you know, people were like, well, we're buying pet rocks for X amount of dollars. And I laughed at the pet rock thing because I knew what that was. I think you've heard it a couple of times in crypto that having Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin, whatever, is like having a pet rock. It sits there. It doesn't do anything. It's like, isn't it nice? My little Bitcoin is sitting there on my table. And then someone was just like, well, we're making pet rock NFTs. And then they sold, and like, okay, well, this is an inside joke. Okay, I get it. That's the other thing. Crypto is a big place for nerds to finally express themselves the way they always wanted to.
Isn't that very true? That's probably the statement of this first show. I think it's really, really poignant. Well, like I said about this kind of waifs and strays, but like the nerd gang and them all express themselves. It's true. I just want to say that for me, and again, you know, it's our own interpretation of what we see in art, but Seymour. Now, this dude, like being a street artist, I mean, I like to go into London and you know, when I go into London, I'm fascinated by the ugliness of London. You know, I'm not let's go and look at the beauty so much, but that whole urban dirt and grime, you know, where you can like take a really cool black and white image of like some rundown shithole in London, right? And I just think that image has power. I like the stuff that you get in the States as well, you know, that real kind of dark vibe. And when you go there, of course, graffiti is a big player in that world. You know, the different styles, the tags and that of these graffiti artists. And I think Seymour, to me, absolutely knocks it out the park with the stuff that he does. I mean, some of it is like kind of quite clean as well. You know, I look at it and think it's very, very clean, but it's got that
vampires.
Yeah. And I mean, he's
trying to find this.
He's just done like a He's done a piece for Drift Exchange, and it's like, I
Oh
looked
yes,
at it,
it's on Twitter. I saw that earlier.
and
Yesterday.
it's super cool. So he's one for me. This over the last week or two, he's been someone I've thought, yeah, I really am getting a vibe. This is just next level for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. That's the one thing I like the most. Is I feel like with NFT art, I think it speaks the most to graffiti artists, to guys that are out there, guys who have always been put down. You know, it's a borderline. I know some places are perfectly fine with graffiti art as long as it's organized and all this sorts of stuff. It's cherished in plenty of places, but it's illegal in plenty of places here in the States. Like you can't buy spray cans in Illinois, in the Chicago area. They've been illegal now for well over a decade. And there's reasons for that, and we're not just talking about like, oh, this is keeping artists down. It can be a lot of different things. We're talking about, problems societally, but my gosh, like I see so much graffiti art that I go, wow, I don't know if I could ever do that. If you are a person that gravitates to being able to create like this is you. Like this is that person 100%. You can't, you have to like really be like this. I always felt like graffiti art was really the core of someone's like creative soul, and that it felt much like the throwback to say, the Renaissance and even a little prior to that time when say like Michelangelo was building, the designs for the Sistine Chapel, all the fresco art and murals that were put into churches. Like we're talking about stuff that's the same because it was put somewhere in the world and has a life expectancy. So much art is preserved, and art that's put out on a public space can only last so long. I think that's why like people love Banksy so much, because they pop up and people try so hard to preserve them. And I kind of laugh because that person doesn't really want that, that person stays anonymous for a reason. And the whole world is just like, well, we need to keep this. We need to sell it. We need to, and it's just, it creates a sort of tunnel of all this stuff. And I think NFTs, I think it's something that has yet to even really be fully understood. I think we're only still trying to understand it individually.
I think the Drift Exchange account here has just put graffiti as one of, if not the most underrated art form of all time. Combining that comment with what you said there about it's a soul, that's why I am so drawn to that kind of, as I said, that kind of dark, and I only know in my mind how I try and articulate it, but that kind of dark, almost dangerous, that you shouldn't really be in that area taking pictures of this kind of stuff because it's a held down area that's had a lot of issues on a societal level. You can get these beautiful pieces of graffiti art in those areas. That's where you generally find them. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, it's that expression of that soul on that wall. And I think to try and then understand, what is the creative power behind that person reflecting themselves on that wall with a spray can. It's the whole thing's got multi levels to it. Any piece of art is the same. I get that. But I think when you combine it with that kind of real story of kind of challenge, and that they might be bloody millionaires, I don't know, living in,
who knows?
Rural area, but I get a feeling a lot of these people are kind of expressing the challenges they've had in life, and you kind of almost feel it palpable. It's a palpable thing when you can see it.
No, it definitely is. And I think like I don't know if background matters, if an artist is good or not. Like I know some people tend to get very very critical of, like, say, like if a person comes from a lot of wealth and they reveal themselves to be an artist, and everyone goes, "Oh, you're just doing it for fun." Well, then they totally like just they just get rid of the whole idea that maybe they're even talented or it's good or whatever. And I guess that's up to people, and that's going to happen. It's just it's unbelievable when I think about how much art is out there, and how many artists have tried to find a way to express themselves, and now they have even more of a way to express themselves, and that might be really daunting for some that may want to do it but are scared to, because then they don't know where they want to go, and that can take time. And I think that's why no one should feel overrushed with the sensation of NFTs, because I think a lot of people are like, "Well, I've got to get in now because we've hit this ramp up, and we're probably going to go down," because a lot of people want to tag in the idea that, like, it's NFTs is art, but it's tied to crypto. So everybody in crypto is investor financial centered. So they want to play it like a market, and you can do that with NFTs. You can say that it's up or down or whatever if you want to, but that's not really the point. Art shouldn't be so much treated like a tradable asset. I mean, even though we put it in there, I think it needs to be looked at a little differently from a time frame sort of standpoint. I think some people feel like they're like, "Oh, my collection is it's at the bottom," or "I need to, maybe it fell off," or is it, what do I do here, because maybe there was attention and there's not as much now. And I think it's just a matter of just always just keep plugging forward, because it's no different than anything else in the world. Like, everything's going to keep moving. People are going to want to collect your work and then go find other people to collect, and then come back around to see what you're doing, or maybe life just takes them away from the internet. I just don't think that I think Ethereum has made NFT artists feel like they owe people a lot because of how much has been given to them in Ethereum for things that we've seen the sales. I know artists that are on Ethereum that had nothing, and they started sharing their art, and it's and we're not even talking about pixels. We're talking about like abstract stuff that's very, very focused on a person's likes, and they took off. And then I saw how they wanted to do a giveaway, and it dropped their floor value by like 3 Ethereum or something like that, because they wanted to do a giveaway. And some of their collectors, I'm going to call them investors, because they sent them messages saying how wrong it was for them to do a giveaway, how they had given them all this money and had put all this into it, and that they were lowering the value of their art by giving something away. And you shouldn't put that kind of pressure on an artist. If you pay $10,000 for a piece of art, that's not the artist's problem or concern thereafter. If you want to keep paying that artist 10 grand a piece, that's your choice. If that artist then decides to say, "Well, I'd like to give something back to my community, here's a free piece." Okay, it dropped your floor by 4 Ethereum for some reason. I don't think it should be programmed that way. But that person that probably is going to get that free piece of art is going to turn around and try to sell it for 3 Ethereum or something, or 2 Ethereum or whatever, which then what? Oh, raises their floor back up. Like, it's nonsense. Like, I don't think that's right. That annoys me the most when I see what's going on in NFTs outside of Stellar, is that there's a lot of bullying happening with artists. And if that's the way it's going to go, I think people need to think about what they're doing, and I think they need to think very carefully going into the future, because it just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to me to demand something from someone after you bought their art. I mean, I get that that's a lot of money, but nobody told you to do that. I mean, that those bids kept going up, and then you decided to put the ultimate bid in. That's fine. You know, I'm not going to yell at. Go ahead. You're muted. Somehow you got muted.
I muted because the foster child that we have at the moment is quite audible. So she's just come in with my wife from shopping, and it's like, whoa, I'm back.
Christmas.
So, yeah, that's it. It's like, where's Ben? And I'm going to scream. So, yeah, I thought.
Well, that's okay. We could have had her on.
You what?
We could have had her on.
No, it'd be more than my jobs were here in the UK. You can't have any children in care.
Oh no, I know, I get that. No.
But okay, so I just want to finish off really because we've been going now.
Yeah, we've an hour and 10 minutes. Let's wrap up here. I mean, the first 20 minutes we had nobody going, but we'll wrap up here now, though.
Yeah, I was really going to say, just summarize some of the projects then that are, going to be making serious moves in the NFT space in 2022, so that people that are watching this and unaware of Stellar and everything can kind of plug into them and join their communities.
Yeah. Oh, wait, what happened? Oh, there we go. So here we are. When you think about so I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there because my browser closed on me.
Okay. So I will begin. I think that we've got three main projects on Stellar Network. We've got and I know you're involved in all three at different levels. We've got the guys over at Nuna Art Project. They are essentially trying to connect a lot of art, cultural pieces with the blockchain, so that we can have this ownership, and the communities and those cultures can maintain ownership of those amazing pieces of art. Which I think is fantastic, and also helping developing nations artists move into Stellar, which I'm really passionate about, from all of the countries that I've personally traveled to around the world, seeing those communities being raised up by a project. For me, we've got JPEG DAO, and I know you've already touched on those. They've been doing the Advent drop. If you're not a part of that, there's 500 now people, 500 plus people that are getting the one NFT per day over the whole space of this month of December, and they are incredible, including pieces from yourself, Inc., and others of the top artists on Stellar. So it's one to watch out for me. And also, of course, what they're going to be doing in terms of gamification, utility of NFTs moving into 2022. And finally, a brand new hound in the pound is Drift Exchange listing today, which is wonderful. And they are going to be bringing a lot of artists, as you said then, from these networks, as you mentioned, Ethereum and others, into Stellar, making awareness there. There's a foundation there, and there's also a scholarship so that we can support those artists, as you mentioned, the 99% unaware of NFTs, building with the Drift Exchange scholarship, and bringing those into digital art and NFTs, which is absolutely fantastic, but also starting to look at yield-bearing NFTs. So the ownership of a piece of art, how that can reward you with, an income from having that piece of art, and also combining the liquidity pools that we're seeing. So if we can bring more people and more crypto into Stellar, more eyes are going to be on the art. So it's like having a gallery, but actually driving buses up outside and unloading people to come and look at the gallery. That's essentially what was happening there. So I think those three, fundamentally different, but all really, really good, solid projects for 22 from my perspective on those. Anything to add on them?
Well, what I wanted to add was that, I was talking to a friend the other day, and I'll wrap this up very quickly. And he was talking to me about how there's all these, these new tokens are popping up on Stellar. It's a lot of NFT stuff. And I think what he felt like was that if it was going to create competition, and I pointed out to him that if competition or not, they're all integrating onto Lightman. You could look at any other blockchain and go, well, how many marketplaces are out there? Well, they've all kind of got a few. Everybody's trying to do something. They're all a little independent from each other. And Lightman on Stellar, all these projects are working into Lightman to get their NFTs there. Any of them could have tried to program a marketplace individually and spent all that time and frustration to try to keep it as in-house as possible for their NFTs, right? They're all on the Lightman's page. Like we mint our stuff there and send it off to JPEG and to DriftX, and they pop back up there. Even Lumen Swap with the Lucy NFTs, which I think is great, is they're integrated through Lightman as well. I think this is literally like the day it started just a couple months ago. Next year is the real time for the wheels to get moving. Yeah. It's just that I think that's what it is. And I think that when you look at each token that's NFT focused, they're all doing something different. JPEG wants to bring in artists that aren't necessarily NFT artists. They want to find real world artists, pay them, contribute to the DAO. DriftX has got liquidity token bearing stuff with NFTs. They've got scholarships. They've got, you got Nuna preserving cultural art, bringing smaller countries and places that are disconnected together and bringing artists out of the shadows and places where if you were living on a little island in the middle of Greece, how are you going to get your art out there? I don't know. But now you can. It's like, so when you look at everything going on, it's very, very exciting. And we barely even scratched the surface of some of the things we wanted to talk about today. And I'm seeing a few more people pop on, and we're actually going to be leaving here. But please, anyone that's been watching, also check us out the next time we do another episode. Ben, I don't know if we're doing one. Let's see, what's next week? Okay, well, was it the day after Christmas?
Well, if I don't know what's going to be happening here in the UK with regards to restrictions, but I'm supposed to be going to a holiday home by the sea. And what I'm doing is going to be traveling down. I can take a laptop. So I should hopefully be available if we go down in the day, as long as we go. And if we don't go, I'm definitely available. So either way, I think I should be around. Should you want to do a Boxing Day show, that's absolutely fine.
I meant to give out an NFT today too, but we kind of didn't get enough people. But I'll do it over Twitter. I'm going to do it over Twitter, and I'll let people know through there. I still actually have to get it finished too. I pulled a complicated all-nighter and then just fell asleep.
I think this is just the beginning. It's been fascinating to talk to you and to get insights. I really do, like you say, in the future, we can have special guests on. We can have slots in the show where we can talk specifically about JPEG, Nuna, Drift, and any other projects that pop up. And we can give updates on those so that, the community can be aware of what's happening. Of course, your work and anything new that you're working on. But this, I think, keeping an eye and listening to the community. If they want to tag us, obviously tag you and myself. They probably know us by now and where to find us. But in the artists that are coming to start, we might not be aware there's that many. That there's one's good, and we can highlight their work like we've done tonight. So I'm really excited about the show moving forward. And thank you for the invite to be a co-host.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm just so glad that you wanted to do it. And it was one of those things where I mused about the idea of wanting to do one of these again, like something like this, and you were like, well, I want in. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, now that's it. Then we're just really going to do this. We're really, really going to do this. Yeah. So, we were supposed to do it a week ago and there was a hiccup, and we had a hiccup today with the link, but that's fine. I'm just really excited. I'm glad that people tuned in. Thank you for everyone that did. DriftX, Simple Potato, any of, there was a few other people here that have come and gone now. So yeah, maybe we will do it next week. We'll talk about it. We'll see how the holiday season goes. I don't want to do a show and then if everyone else is too busy to pay attention, then maybe we should just save it for for after the holidays too.
I'm good. Whatever you decide, mate. Well, I mean,
Okay.
I'm there or thereabouts. Whatever you decide. Anyway, for everyone, I'm going off because I've got to prepare for the Lumen Swap show that is at 1900 UTC. See you there.
Oh crap! It's gonna be soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.